The air in LaGuardia's Terminal B was thick with the frenetic pulse of 1,000 lives, Caladinga cacophony of suitcase wheels grinding against the polished floor, intercom spitting garbled flight updates, and the faint, acrid scent of burnt coffee drifting from a kiosk where a barista yelled orders over the din. It was Thursday, April 8, 2025, a day that felt primed for chaos, the kind where the world seemed to teeter on the edge of something explosive. Amid the swarm of travelers' business suits rushing, families bickering, solo backpackers slouched against pillars, Maya Jackson moved like a calm current cutting through choppy waters. At 41, she carried herself with a quiet, unshakable authority. Tall and lean, her sharp cheekbones caught the harsh fluorescent light, and her dark braids, swept into a sleek bun, framed a face that could command a boardroom or battlefield. Her outfit-tailored black blazer, silk blouse, pressed trousers, and hand-stitched leather loafers spoke of wealth, but not the garish, inherited kind. It was the hard-won kind, the kind you earned by clawing your way up from nothing. Maya wasn't here for a vacation or a quick jaunt. She was the CEO of Nexus Technologies, a tech empire she'd built from a second-hand laptop and a studio apartment, now boasting $1.2 billion in annual profits and 5,000 employees worldwide. Today she was bound for Singapore, the Global Tech Innovation Summit looming on the horizon. Gate 37B loomed ahead, a chaotic knot of humanity under the sterile glow of a departure board flashing on time. In green, a rare promise from Sky Globe Airlines, a carrier once synonymous with luxury but now teetering on the edge of irrelevance. Passengers sprawled across vinyl seats, their carry-ons spilling into the aisles, while others paced, phones glued to their ears, voices rising in a chorus of frustration. A toddler wailed near the window, his mother shushing him with a weary sigh. A businessman in a pinstripe suit barked into his Bluetooth. "Tell them we're not budging on the margin." The air crackled with impatience, a pressure cooker waiting for a spark. Maya stepped into the first-class lane, marked by a velvet rope and a sign promising priority boarding. Her boarding pass glowed on her phone, the barcode crisp and unmistakable. Seat 2A, Sky Globe Flight 819 to Singapore. She'd flown first class hundreds of times, London, Tokyo, Dubai, and the routine was second nature. Flash the pass, nod to the agent, board. Simple. Until it wasn't. "Excuse me, ma'am." A voice cut through the noise, sharp and brittle like glass about to shatter. Maya looked up to meet the gaze of the gate agent, Meredith. Her name tag read, pinned crookedly to a navy vest. Mid-30s, blonde hair yanked into a tight ponytail. Her lips pursed into a thin, judgmental line. Her eyes, pale blue and cold, raked over Maya from head to toe, lingering on her blazer, her loafers, her skin. "This is the first-class lane," Meredith said, her tone dripping with dismissal. "Economy's over there." She jabbed a thumb toward a snaking line of bedraggled travelers, a queue that stretched past the Starbucks and disappeared into the terminal's depths. Maya didn't blink. She'd heard this script before, different voices, different places, same undertone. At 16, she'd been the kid fixing pawnshop computers while her mother scrubbed floors to keep the lights on. At 25, she'd watched white colleagues with half her talent climb past her at her first tech job. At 41, she ran a billion-dollar company, yet here she was, still fielding the same tired assumptions. She kept her voice low, steady, a steel thread beneath silk. "I'm aware. I'm in 2A. First class." She held up her phone, the screen tilted just enough for Meredith to see. Meredith's eyes flicked to the barcode, then back to Maya, narrowing into slits. She didn't reach for the scanner clipped to her belt. Instead, she snatched the phone from Maya's hand, a bold, almost violent grab, and tilted it toward the overhead light, squinting as if deciphering a riddle. The crowd around them stirred, a ripple of attention spreading like wildfire. Heads turned, conversations paused, a low hum of curiosity replacing the terminal's usual roar. "This doesn't look right," Meredith said, her voice louder now, pitched for an audience. She thrust the phone back at Maya with the flick of her wrist as if it were contaminated. "Digital passes glitch all the time. I need to see a physical boarding pass." Maya's jaw tightened, a faint pulse ticking beneath her calm exterior. She'd face worse corporate sharks, hostile takeovers, outright theft of her ideas, but this petty power play still stung. Not because it was new, but because it was so predictable. "It's valid," she said, her tone unwavering. "Scan it." Meredith didn't move. She crossed her arms, her stance widening, a gatekeeper reveling in her tiny kingdom. "I said I need a physical pass. If you don't have one, step aside. We're boarding priority passengers now." Her words carried a challenge, daring Maya to push back, to give her an excuse. The air thickened. Eyes were on her now, dozens, maybe hundreds, boring into her from every angle. A man in a polo shirt, clutching a golf bag like a trophy, leaned toward his wife and muttered, "Probably trying to sneak in. Happens all the time." His wife, a peroxide blonde with diamond studs, nodded, her lips curling into a smirk that screamed agreement. A teenage girl nearby glanced up from her phone, her thumbs hovering over the screen, then quickly looked away, as if Maya were a minor glitch in her social media feed. Near the counter, a guy in a trucker hat scratched his beard and snorted, loud enough to draw a few chuckles. Maya took a slow, deliberate breath, her fingers brushing the handle of her carry-on. She'd learned early that anger was a trap's habit, and they'd label her difficult, aggressive, the stereotype they were itching to pin on her. She reached into her briefcase, pulled out a backup paper boarding pass because she always had a backup, a habit born from years of anticipating nonsense like this, and handed it over. "Here. Seat 2A. Meredith snatched it, her fingers twitching with impatience, and held it up to the light, turning it this way and that as if it were a forged passport at a border crossing. The seconds dragged, each one a calculated jab, a silent message. "You don't belong here." The crowd's murmur grew louder, a restless beast feeding on the delay. Then, with a sudden vicious motion, Meredith tore the pass in half, ripped it clean down the middle, the sound slicing through the terminal like a whip crack. She tossed the pieces onto the counter, where they fluttered down like confetti from a ruined party. "This looks fake," she declared, her voice booming now, a prosecutor delivering a verdict. "Probably picked it up somewhere, huh? Economy's that way." The crowd ignited, not with outrage but with a ragged, ugly cheer. "Get her out of here," bellowed the trucker hat guy, his face flushing red, veins bulging in his neck. "She's holding us up," snapped a woman with a toddler clinging to her leg, the kids' wails escalating as if sensing the tension. The golf bag man clapped his hands, a slow, mocking rhythm, while his wife whispered something that made them both laugh. A teenage boy near the gate pulled out his phone, filming with a grin, his friend snickering beside him. "Gonna go viral," the friend muttered, elbowing him. The business suit by the window paused his call, his Bluetooth blinking blue, and shot Maya a look of pure disdain, as if her presence were a personal affront. Maya stood still, her pulse hammering against her ribs, a storm raging beneath her calm facade. She'd been here before, not this exact gate, not this exact moment, but this crucible. At 16, she'd coded her way out of a neighborhood where success was a rumor, her mother's 3 jobs barely keeping the roof over their heads. At 28, she'd mortgaged everything to launch Nexus Technologies, her first office a folding table in a cramped apartment. At 41, she held 28% of Sky Globe Airline stock, a silent sword she'd yet to unsheath. She'd faced down men in suits who'd stolen her algorithms, boards who'd dismissed her as a diversity hire, and yet here she was, reduced to a fraud by a gate agent with a chip on her shoulder and a crowd eager to swallow the lie. She didn't shout. She didn't beg. Instead, she pulled her phone back out, tapped the screen, and hit record. The red dot flared to life, a tiny flare in the gathering dark. "Say that again," she said, her voice low, lethal, aimed straight at Meredith. "Tell me why I can't board." Meredith froze for a heartbeat, her eyes darting to the phone, then to the swelling audience. The hesitation vanished as quickly as it came, replaced by a surge of bravado. She leaned forward, her ponytail swinging, her voice rising to a theatrical crescendo. "Because you don't have a valid ticket, ma'am. And frankly, I don't think you belong in first class." Step aside or I'll call security. The threat landed like gasoline on a bonfire. Do it, roared the trucker hat guy, slamming his fist into his palm. Get her out, echoed the golf bag man, his clap turning into a cheer. The teenage boy zoomed in, his friend now filming too, their laughter a jagged edge in the uproar. The woman with the toddler hissed, "Some people don't know their place," loud enough for Maya to hear, her words a dagger wrapped in a sigh. The crowd pressed closer, a wall of bodies and judgment, their phones flashing like a swarm of fireflies, capturing every second of what they thought was Maya's downfall. Maya kept the phone steady, her hand unwavering, her gaze locked on Meredith, who was now smirking, basking in the chaos she'd unleashed. "Call them," Maya said, her tone flat, a dare wrapped in ice. "Let's see what happens." Meredith's smirk stretched into a grin, a predator scenting blood. She grabbed the radio clip to her vest, pressed the button with a flourish and barked into it. "Security to gate 37B. We've got a disruptive passenger refusing to comply." She shot Maya a look of pure triumph, as if she'd already slammed the gavel. The crowd roared its approval, a ragged, guttural sound that bounced off the terminal's high ceilings. Meredith stepped back, folding her arms, her mission accomplished. The departure board ticked over to 10:47 a.m., 15 minutes until full boarding, the green, on time, taunting Maya from above. Phones were out everywhere now, some filming, some snapping photos, a few already uploading with captions she could imagine, entitled "Woman Tries to Scam First Class. Fails." The teenage girl from earlier posted hers with a laughing emoji, the likes piling up in real time. The businessman resumed his call, his voice cutting through the noise. "Yeah, some idiots holding up the gate. Typical." Maya slipped her phone into her pocket, the recording still running, and adjusted her blazer with a slow, deliberate motion. She met Meredith's eyes, then scanned the crowd, a trucker hat guy, the golf bag couple, the snickering teens, the muttering mother, each face a brick in the wall closing around her. She built her life on moments like this, turning slights into stepping stones, and she wasn't about to crumble now. Footsteps pounded down the concourse, heavy, rhythmic, the sound of authority on the march. Two security guards rounded the corner, their radios crackling with static, their uniforms stretched tight over broad frames. The taller one, a buzz-cut bruiser with a jaw like a slab of concrete, zeroed in on Maya with the focus of a hunter. His partner, shorter but wiry, hung back, his hand already hovering near his belt. "Ma'am," the tall one growled, his voice a low rumble that silenced the crowd for a split second, "you need to come with us." The gate erupted again, cheers, jeers, a wave of sound crashing over her. The trucker hat guy pumped his fist, yelling, "Finally!" The golf bag man's wife clapped, her diamonds glinting under the lights. The toddler's mother bounced her kid, whispering, "See? Trouble gets what it deserves." The teenage boy zoomed in tighter, his friend whispering, "This is gold, bro." Meredith leaned against the counter, her smirk now a full-blown smile, her arms still crossed like a conqueror surveying her victory. Maya didn't flinch. She squared her shoulders, her carry-on steady at her side, and met the guard's glare head-on. "I'm not going anywhere," she said, her voice cutting through the noise like a blade, "until I'm on that plane." The guard's hand twitched toward his belt, his fingers brushing the edge of his radio or maybe something else. The crowd held its breath, a collective inhale, waiting for the next move. The shorter guard shifted, his eyes flicking between Maya and his partner, uncertainty creeping into his stance. Meredith's smile faltered just for a moment, as if sensing the ground shift beneath her. Maya Jackson stood there, a lone figure in a sea of hostility, her phone humming with the evidence of every word, every threat, every slight. She'd spent her life proving she belonged first to herself, then to the world, and this wasn't just a fight for a seat. It was a fight for everything she'd built, everything she was. The guards loomed closer, the crowd pulsed with anticipation, and in that frozen heartbeat, Maya knew exactly what came next. She wasn't here to lose. She was here to win. The air at Gate 37B crackled with raw electric tension, a storm about to break. The crowd's jeers and cheers swirled around Maya Jackson like a gale, their phones flashing, capturing every second of what they thought was her defeat. The departure board above still glowed on time in mocking green, its countdown to boarding ticking relentlessly. 14 minutes left. Maya stood rooted, her tailored blazer slightly askew from the confrontation, her carry-on steady at her side. Her words, "I'm not going anywhere until I'm on that plane," hung in the air, a gauntlet thrown at the feet of the two security guards looming before her. The taller one, buzz-cut and broad as a linebacker, glared down with eyes like flint, his hand twitching near his belt. His partner, wiry and tense, shifted uneasily, his radio spitting static. Meredith, the gate agent, leaned against the counter, her smirk a crescent of triumph, certain she'd won. Maya's pulse thundered, but her face was a mask of steel. At 41, she'd faced worse than this, boardrooms that dismissed her, algorithms stolen from under her, a world that saw her skin before her empire. She'd built Nexus Technologies from a folding table and a dream, turned it into a $1.2 billion juggernaut, and held 28% of Sky Globe Airlines stock in her pocket like a hidden ace. This wasn't just about a seat in first class. It was about every door slammed in her face, every assumption she'd shattered. And she wasn't about to let a pair of rent-a-cops and a hostile mob rewrite her story. "Ma'am," the tall guard growled again, his voice a low rumble that cut through the crowd's noise. "I'm not asking. Move. Now." He took a step closer, his boots thudding on the terminal floor, his bulk casting a shadow over her. The crowd surged forward, a wave of bodies pressing against the velvet ropes of the first-class lane, their phones raised like torches in a riot. "Get her out!" bellowed the trucker hat guy from Part 1, his red face glistening with sweat. "She's wasting our time," snapped the woman with the toddler, her kid now silent, staring wide-eyed at the unfolding drama. The teenage boy filming zoomed in, his friend whispering, "This is gonna hit 1 million views easy." Maya didn't budge. Her eyes locked onto the guards, unflinching, her voice steady as granite. "I have a valid ticket. Seat 2A. I'm boarding that plane." She gestured toward the jet bridge door, its metal frame glinting under the terminal lights, a portal to her destination, Singapore, the summit, the $500 million deal that could redefine her legacy. The guard's jaw tightened, a muscle twitching under his stubbled cheek. "Last chance," he said, his hand now resting on his radio, fingers curling as if itching to escalate. His partner glanced at him, then at Maya, his uncertainty palpable. The crowd's roar grew louder, a chant forming, "Move! Move! Move!" led by the golf bag man, his wife clapping along, her diamond earrings flashing like tiny beacons of malice. Meredith stepped forward, emboldened by the chaos. "She's disrupting everything," she called out, her voice shrill, aimed at both the guards and the crowd. She tried to use a fake pass. "Get her out of here." Her words were gasoline, and the crowd was a match. "Fake!" shouted a new voice, a middle-aged man in a polo shirt, his beer gut straining against the fabric. "Arrest her!" yelled another, a woman with a fanny pack, her face twisted with indignation. The teenage girl from Part 1 posted her video, the caption, "Scammer caught at LGA," already racking up likes. Maya's fingers tightened around her carry-on handle, the leather creaking under her grip. She could feel the weight of every stare, every word, every assumption piling up like stones. But she'd carried heavier burdens. At 16, she'd coded through nights when hunger gnawed at her stomach. At 28, she'd bet everything on Nexus, sleeping 3 hours a day to make it work. At 41, she held the power to make or break empires. She wasn't here to be dragged away. The tall guard made his move. Without warning, he lunged forward, his meaty hand clamping onto Maya's arm with a force that yanked her off balance. "Enough talk," he snarled, pulling her toward the side of the gate. The crowd erupted, cheers, gasps, a chaotic mix of glee and shock. Maya stumbled, her loafers skidding on the slick floor, her carry-on tipping precariously. Her briefcase slipped from her shoulder, hitting the ground with a thud, the clasp popping open. Paper notes for her keynote, contracts, her life's work spilled across the terminal floor like scattered dreams. "Let go!" Maya snapped, her voice sharp now, cutting through the uproar. She twisted, trying to free her arm, but the guard's grip tightened, his fingers digging into her blazer, bruising her skin. The wiry guard hesitated, then grabbed her other arm, less forcefully but enough to pin her in place. The crowd surged closer, phones flashing, a feeding frenzy of voyeurs. Got her, crowed the trucker hat guy, pumping his fist. Teach her a lesson, yelled the polo shirt man, his voice slurred with excitement. Maya's breath hitched, pain shooting through her arm, but she forced herself to focus. She wasn't a victim. She was a strategist, a survivor. Her phone, still recording in her pocket, captured every word, every grunt, every cheer. She needed to act and fast. With a sharp jerk, she pulled against the tall guard's grip, just enough to shift her weight. You're making a mistake, she said, her voice low, aimed at him alone. You don't know who I am. The guard laughed a harsh, barking sound. I know your trouble, he shot back, yanking her harder, dragging her toward a customer service desk away from the gate. The wiry guard followed, his grip loosening slightly, his eyes darting nervously to the crowd. Maya's carry-on tipped over completely now, its wheels spinning uselessly as it skidded across the floor. Her briefcase lay abandoned, papers fluttering in the draft from a nearby vent. A kid in a hoodie kicked one of the pages, snickering, while the teenage boy filmed it all, his friend narrating, "Yo, she's done for." The terminal spun around her faces, lights, noise, but Maya's mind was razor sharp. She needed leverage and she needed it now. With her free hand, she reached into her pocket, her fingers brushing the phone. She couldn't stop the recording, not yet, but she could do something else. She tapped the screen blindly, muscle memory guiding her to her speed dial list. Marcus Chun, her chief strategy officer, was number 1. She pressed call, praying the chaos wouldn't drown out the connection. The guard shoved her forward, the tall one's grip like a vice. Keep moving, he barked, steering her past the velvet ropes, away from the jet bridge. The crowd parted, then closed in behind them, a mob trailing like hyenas scenting blood. Should have stayed in economy, shouted the fanny pack woman, her voice shrill. Lock her up, added the polo shirt man, his beer gut jiggling as he waved his phone. The toddler's mother bounced her kid, whispering, "See what happens when you make trouble?" The golf bag couple stood arm in arm, smirking, their privilege a shield against the chaos they'd helped ignite. Maya's phone vibrated against her palm, Marcus picking up. She couldn't speak, not with the guards dragging her, but she needed him to hear this. The recording would do the rest. Her arm throbbed, her shoulder screaming from the strain, but she kept her head high, her eyes scanning for an opening. The customer service desk loomed ahead, a gray counter manned by a nervous-looking Sky Globe employee who was already backing away, sensing the storm approaching. Put her there, the tall guard ordered, nodding at the desk. He shoved Maya forward with a final, brutal push, sending her crashing into the counter's edge. Pain flared across her ribs, stealing her breath, but she caught herself, her hands slamming onto the surface to steady her body. The wiry guard let go, stepping back, his face pale as if realizing he'd crossed a line. The crowd didn't care. They roared, a tidal wave of sound cheers, insults, laughter crashing over her. That's what you get, yelled the trucker hat guy, his voice hoarse now. Busted, crowed the teenage boy, his phone still rolling, the video already streaming to thousands. Maya's carry-on lay toppled 10 feet away, one wheel spinning pathetically. Her briefcase was a wreck, papers scattered like confetti across the terminal floor. A janitor nearby hesitated, his broom frozen mid-sweep, his eyes flicking between Maya and the guards. The Sky Globe employee behind the desk stammered, "Tool, get a supervisor," and bolted, leaving Maya alone with the guards and the mob. She straightened, ignoring the pain in her ribs, her arm, her pride. Her phone was still in her hand, the call to Marcus active, the recording capturing every second of this nightmare. She turned to the tall guard, her voice low but clear, each word a blade. "You just assaulted a paying passenger with a valid ticket. You're going to regret this." The guard scoffed, but his eyes flickered with something out, maybe, or the first hint of fear. "Save it," he snapped, crossing his arms. "You're not boarding. Sit down and wait for the supervisor." He pointed to a row of empty chairs by the desk, his tone final, as if she were a child being sent to timeout. The wiry guard shifted uncomfortably, his radio crackling with an incoming message. He pressed it to Escolta. The crowd's frenzy didn't relent. "Sit down," shouted the golf bag man, his wife echoing, "You heard him." The teenage girl posted another clip, her caption now, "Karma at gate 37B. The polo shirt man leaned over the ropes, yelling, "You're lucky they didn't cuff you." The toddler wailed again, the mother shushing him with a glare aimed at Maya, as if she were the cause of it all. Maya didn't sit. She stood tall, her blazer torn at the sleeve, her ribs aching, but her resolve unbreakable. She lifted her phone, the call to Marcus still live, and spoke into it, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Marcus, it's me. Sky Globe just assaulted me at LaGuardia. I need you to activate Plan Delta. Now." The tall guard's smirk faltered, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you talking to?" he demanded, stepping closer. The wiry guard grabbed his radio, muttering something about backup. The crowd's chant grew louder. "Move. Move. Move." A drumbeat of hostility that shook the terminal walls. Maya lowered the phone, her gaze sweeping the guards, the mob, the scattered papers, the toppled carry-on. She'd been pushed, dragged, humiliated, but she wasn't broken. She was Maya Jackson, and she was just getting started. The supervisor would come. The truth would surface. And when it did, Sky Globe would learn exactly who they'd crossed. The chaos at Gate 37B had morphed into a living beast, its roars echoing off the terminal's high ceilings, its claws made of flashing phones and venomous shouts. Maya Jackson stood at the customer service desk, her ribs throbbing from the guard's shove, her blazer torn at the sleeve, her scattered papers a testament to the assault she just endured. Maya's phone rested in her hand, the call to Marcus Chen, her chief strategy officer, still live, her voice steady as she'd uttered the words, "Activate Plan Delta. Now." The tall guard's eyes had narrowed, his question, "Who are you talking to?" hanging unanswered in the air. She didn't owe him an explanation. Not yet. At 41, Maya had built Nexus Technologies from a scavenged laptop and a dream, turned it into a $1.2 billion empire, and held 28% of Sky Globe Airline stock like a loaded gun. She'd just been dragged, shoved, and humiliated, but the storm inside her wasn't ratchet, was calculation. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The crowd's noise swelled, a tidal wave of hostility. Maya straightened, her ribs aching, her arm bruised, but her posture unbowed. She slipped her phone into her pocket, the recording still running, Marcus still listening. She met the tall guard's glare, her voice low and lethal. "You've got no authority to keep me here. I'm boarding that flight." She nodded toward the jet bridge, its doors still open, a sliver of hope in the chaos. The guard snorted, crossing his arms. "You're not going anywhere until the supervisor says so. Sit." He pointed to the empty chairs, his tone a command, not a request. The wiry guard shifted, his radio buzzing with an update, "Supervisors 2 minutes out," his eyes flicking nervously between Maya and the crowd. The janitor nearby resumed sweeping, his broom brushing her scattered papers into a pile, his face blank but his hands trembling slightly. Before Maya could respond, a new sound pierced the din, sharp, staccato footsteps, polished shoes clicking against the terminal floor with the rhythm of a man who owned every room he entered. The crowd parted instinctively, their chants faltering, heads turning toward the source. Edward Ed Carver, CEO of Sky Globe Airlines, strode into view, a silver-haired titan at 65, his bespoke suit from London's Savile Row gleaming under the lights. His face lined but handsome, with a jaw carved from arrogance, was set in a scowl, his pale blue eyes scanning the scene like a predator sizing up prey. He carried no briefcase, no phone in hand, just an aura of entitlement, a third-generation airline baron who'd inherited his throne and run it into the ground. Behind him trailed a nervous aide, a young man in a cheap suit, clutching a tablet and whispering updates Ed ignored. The tall guard straightened, a flicker of recognition crossing his face. "Mr. Carver," he said, his growl softening to deference. Meredith snapped to attention, her smirk vanishing, replaced by a mask of professionalism. The crowd hushed, a collective breath held, sensing a shift in the air. Ed stopped 10 feet from Maya, his gaze locking onto her, taking in her torn blazer, her scattered belongings, her defiance. He didn't speak to her, not yet. Instead, he turned to the guard, his voice smooth but edged with steel. "What's the holdup here?" The guard gestured at Maya, his tone clipped. "Disruptive passenger, sir." Refusing to comply. Claims she's first class, but her pass didn't check out. Meredith chimed in, stepping forward, her voice eager. "She tried to board with a fake ticket, Mr. Carver. I called security to handle it." Ed's eyes flicked to Meredith, then back to Maya, his scowl deepening. He stepped closer, his polished shoes crunching one of her scattered papers, a draft of her Singapore keynote, now smudged with a footprint. He towered over her, his presence a physical weight, his cologne a sharp sting of cedar and power. "Is that so?" he said, his voice loud now, carrying across the gate for all to hear. "You think you can waltz in here, fake a ticket, and demand first class? Who do you think you are?" The crowd stirred, their hostility reigniting. "Tell her boss," shouted the trucker hat guy, his fist pumping. "She's a fraud," yelled the polo shirt man, his phone raised. The teenage boy grinned, whispering, "CO's here, this is epic." The golf bag wife clapped, her husband muttering, "About time someone put her in her place." The floral dress woman nodded, her lips pursed in approval. Ed's face twitched, a flicker of surprise, quickly buried under a sneer. He laughed, a harsh, theatrical bark that echoed off the walls. "CEO, huh? Nexus what? Never heard of it." He turned to the crowd, playing to their cheers, his arms spreading like a showman. "Listen to this, thinks she's some big shot, demanding first class. Newsflash, lady, this isn't your private jet. You want to fly Sky Globe? Know your place and sit in economy like everyone else. Stop wasting my time." The crowd exploded, cheers, laughter, a wave of approval crashing over her. "Know your place," echoed the trucker hat guy, his voice hoarse. "Economy's that way," shouted the fanny pack woman, pointing dramatically. The teenage boy's live stream spiked, comments flooding in. "Owned. CEO Smackdown." The golf bag man clapped Ed on the back as if they were old pals, his wife giggling behind her hand. The floral dress woman yelled, "Thank you, sir. She's holding us all up." Maya's ribs ached, her arm throbbed, but her resolve was iron. She'd faced men like Ed before, silver spoons, silver hair, silver tongues, all hiding rot beneath the shine. At 16, she'd coded her way out of poverty while her mother scrubbed floors. At 28, she bet everything on Nexus, building it from nothing. At 41, she held the power to topple empires. She stepped forward, closing the gap between her and Ed, her voice low but piercing, aimed at him alone. "My place is on that plane in the seat I paid for. Your staff ripped my ticket, dragged me across this terminal, and you're standing here mocking me. Big mistake, Edward." Ed's sneer faltered, his eyes narrowing at the use of his name. "You don't talk to me like that," he snapped, his voice rising, his finger jabbing the air an inch from her face. "You think you're tough? I run this airline. I say who flies and who doesn't. And you? You're done." He turned to the tall guard, his tone a command. "Get her out of my terminal. Now." The guard moved, his hand clamping onto Maya's arm again, but she twisted free, her eyes blazing. "Take your hands off me," she said, her voice loud now, carrying over the crowd. "I've done nothing wrong." The wiry guard hesitated, his radio buzzing, his face pale. The crowd surged, their chants morphing out. Out! Out! A wall of sound pressing in. Ed stepped closer, his face inches from hers, his breath hot with fury. "Nothing wrong? You're a liar and a troublemaker. Some people just don't belong in first class or anywhere near my airline." His words were a hiss, meant for her alone, but they carried, picked up by the teenage boy's live stream, the mic catching every syllable. The crowd didn't hear the venom, they heard the authority, and they loved it. "Get her gone," yelled the polo shirt man, his phone shaking with excitement. Maya's phone vibrated in her pocket, Marcus, still on the line, hearing it all. She didn't need to check it. Plan Delta was in motion, a strategy she'd crafted years ago for moments like this when discrimination didn't just bruise her dignity but threatened her empire. She looked at Ed, her voice steady, a promise wrapped in ice. You don't know what you just started. But you'll find out. The tall guard grabbed Maya's arm again, harder this time, yanking her toward the desk. Let's go, he growled, his patience gone. The wiry guard followed, his grip tentative, his eyes darting to Ed, then away. Maya stumbled, her loafer skidding, but she caught herself, her free hand brushing her pocket, ensuring the phone stayed secure. Her papers lay trampled, her carry-on abandoned, but her focus was razor-sharp. She twisted, facing Ed one last time, her voice ringing out. 10 minutes, Carver. That's all you've got left. Ed's sneer froze, a crack of doubt splitting his facade. He opened his mouth to retort, but the wiry guard's radio crackled, cutting him off. Supervisor's here, the voice said, urgent. And something's happening with the system. The wiry guard frowned, pressing the radio to his ear, his face paling further. The tall guard paused, his grip loosening slightly, his eyes flicking to Ed. The crowd didn't notice. They kept chanting, filming, reveling in what they thought was Maya's end. But Maya felt his shift, the first tremor of the reckoning she'd unleashed. Ed's aide whispered something, his tablet screen glowing with alerts, his voice trembling. Ed waved him off, his scowl returning, his finger jabbing at Maya again. You're finished, he said, loud enough for the cameras. Enjoy the walk out. Maya didn't respond. She stood there, bruised but unbroken, her phone humming with Marcus's silent witness, her empire stirring to life behind the scenes. Edward Carver had just stepped into her trap, and he didn't even know it. The supervisor was coming. The system was faltering. And in 10 minutes, the world would see exactly who Maya Jackson was and what Sky Globe had just lost. The air at Gate 37B was a furnace of fury and anticipation, the crowd's chants out. Out! Out! Ringing off the terminal's walls like a war cry. Maya Jackson stood bruised but unbowed, her torn blazer hanging off one shoulder, her ribs aching from the guard's shove, her scattered papers trampled underfoot. Her carry-on lay toppled, a casualty of the chaos, while her phone hummed in her pocket. Marcus Chin still on the line, Plan Delta unfolding in silent, devastating motion. Edward Ed Carver, Sky Globe's silver-haired CEO, towered before her, his bespoke suit pristine, his sneer a mask of triumph. His words, "You're finished. Enjoy the walkout," still echoed, amplified by the teenage boy's live stream, now surging past thousands of viewers in real time. The tall guard's grip lingered on her arm, the wiry one clutching his crackling radio, its cryptic message, "Something's happening with the system," lost in the mob's roar. Meredith smirked from the counter, the crowd trucker hat guy, golf bag couple, polo shirt ma shirt Ed on, their phones flashing like a swarm of vultures circling a kill. The departure board ticked to 10:53 a.m. 9 minutes until boarding closed its screen, on time, a fading lie. Maya's eyes locked onto Ed's, her voice a quiet blade slicing through the noise. 10 minutes, Carver. That's all you've got left. The promise wasn't loud, but it carried a vow etched in steel, rooted in the empire she'd built from nothing. At 41, Maya Jackson wasn't just Nexus Technologies' CEO. She was a force who held 28% of Sky Globe stock, a $3.7 billion corporate contract in her hands, and a plan Delta crafted for moments when prejudice crossed her path. Ed laughed, a harsh bark, turning to the crowd with theatrical flair. She's still talking, folks. Thinks she's got a trick up her sleeve. The mob roared. Trick. Liar. Their voices a tidal wave of scorn. Then it began. The departure board flickered once, twice its green letters stuttering, then plunging to black. A collective gasp rippled through the terminal, heads snapping up, phones pivoting from Maya to the screens. The gate's electronic display froze mid-update, the words, Flight 819 Singapore, garbled into nonsense. A crackle erupted from the PA system, a half-formed announcement, "Attention all passengers," cut off by a screech of static. The crowd's chants faltered, confusion creeping in. What the hell? Muttered the polo shirt man, lowering his phone. The teenage boy zoomed out, whispering, "Yo, something's crashing." Ed's sneer twitched, his eyes darting to the board, then back to Maya. His aide, the nervous young man with the tablet, tapped frantically at the screen, his voice trembling. "Sir, the system's down, everything's down." Ed waved him off, snapping, "Fix it." But the aide's face paled, his tablet glowing with red alert: system errors, network failures, a cascade of digital collapse. The wiry guard pressed his radio to his ear, his frown deepening. "Control says it's not just here, all gates, all flights. They're locked out." The terminal shifted, a beast waking to panic. Passengers at gate 37B surged toward the counter, their voices rising, demands, curses, a swell of anger replacing their glee. "What's going on?" shouted a woman in a floral dress, her boarding pass crumpled. "Fix this now," bellowed the golf bag man, slamming his fist on the counter. Meredith flinched, her smirk gone, her hands fumbling with the dead computer terminal. The screen blinked a single word: offline. The toddler wailed, his mother snapping, "This is ridiculous." The trucker hat guy kicked a chair, sending it skidding across the floor, roaring, "I paid for this flight." Maya stood still, her bruised arm throbbing, her eyes on Ed. She didn't need to shout. The chaos was her voice now. Plan Delta wasn't a bluff, it was a kill switch. A strategy she'd honed years ago with Marcus. Leverage her stock, her influence, her empire to strike when the moment demanded it. She'd told him to act, and he had. Somewhere in Nexus's headquarters, her team was moving legal, activating her voting shares, PR spinning the narrative, finance poised to sell her 28% stake. Ed didn't know it yet, but his airline was bleeding out. The PA crackled again, a new voice breaking through, robotic and cold. "Attention all Sky Globe passengers. Due to an operational issue, all flights are temporarily delayed. Stand by for updates." The announcement repeated Spanish, Mandarin, French, each iteration stoking the fire. The crowd turned feral. A man in a suit hurled his briefcase at the counter, shattering a coffee mug. "I've got a meeting in Singapore," he screamed. A woman with a roller bag shoved past the ropes, yelling, "Give me my money back." The teenage boy's stream exploded, comments flooding. "Sky Globe's toast. This is insane." His viewership doubling in seconds. Ed's face flushed red, his silver hair glinting as he spun toward the aide. "What the hell is happening?" he barked, loud enough for the crowd to hear. The aide stammered, "It's a full system crash, sir. Reservations, boarding, everything. They can't even reboot." Ed's eyes widened, a crack in his armor, but he turned back to Maya, his sneer returning. "You think this is you?" he hissed, stepping closer, his finger jabbing the air. "Some tech trick? I'll have you sued into the ground." Maya didn't flinch. "It's not a trick," she said, her voice calm, cutting. "It's consequences." She nodded toward the crowd, now a mob tearing at the counter, their phones filming the collapse. "You did this." "Not me." The terminal screens flickered back to life, not with flight info, but with breaking news. CNN Airport Network blared across every monitor. Sky Globe Airline shares plummet amid rumors of major shareholder sell-off. The ticker scrolled down 10%, 15%, 20%, a freefall in real time. Passengers pointed, gasped, pulled out their own phones to check. "Holy crap," muttered the polo shirt man, his bravado gone. The golf bag couple stared, mouths agape, their privilege no shield now. The teenage boy pivoted, filming the screens, his friend yelling, "This is next level." Ed's phone rang once, twice, a dozen times in rapid succession. He yanked it from his pocket, his face draining of color as he saw the caller IDs. Board members, investors, his CFO. He answered, barking. "What?" His aide whispered urgently, "Sir, it's Horizon Capital Theory dumping stock. All of it." Ed froze, his eyes darting to Maya, recognition dawning too late. Horizon Capital was her firm, her silent weapon, and she just fired it. The crowd's anger turned outward, passengers storming the desk, Meredith retreating behind it, her hands raised. "I don't know what's happening," she shrieked as a woman threw a water bottle, splashing her vest. The tall guard stepped back, his grip on Maya gone, his face slack with confusion. The wiry guard muttered into his radio, "We need backup now." But no one came. The terminal was a war zone. Luggage toppled, chairs overturned, voices screaming over each other. "Refund. Fix it. I'm suing you." The toddler's mother sobbed, her kid clinging to her. The floral dress woman pounding the counter with her fist. Ed's phone slipped from his hand, clattering to the floor, unanswered calls piling up. He stared at Maya, his sneer replaced by a mask of fury and fear. "You," he hissed, his voice trembling. "You did this." He lunged forward as if to grab her, but the tall guard intercepted, his hand on Ed's chest. "Sir, calm down," he said, his growl uncertain now. Ed shoved him off, his suit rumpled, his composure cracking. Maya stepped back, her ribs screaming but her gaze unwavering. "I told you," she said, her voice steady. 10 minutes. You're at 7. Keep going." She nodded toward the screens, the stock ticker now at -25%. Analysts speculating wildly. Discrimination scandal? Major shareholder revolt? The teenage boy stream hit 1 million views. The clip of Ed's "Know Your Place" rant looping online. #Sky Globe fail. Maya Jackson trending worldwide. The PA blared again. All Sky Globe flights are now grounded. Repeat, all flights grounded. Please stand by. The crowd lost it. A man in a hoodie hurled his suitcase at the gate sign, shattering the glass. "I paid thousands," he roared. The golf bag man charged the counter, his wife screaming, "Do something." Meredith fled, disappearing behind a door, leaving the desk undefended. Passengers tore at brochures, kicked chairs, their phones filming the anarchy. The toddler wailed, the mother collapsing into a seat, tears streaming. The polo shirt man slumped, muttering, "I'm ruined." Ed's aide grabbed his arm, his tablet shaking. "Sir, the board's calling an emergency meeting now. They're locking you out." Ed's face went white, his breath ragged. He turned to Maya, his voice a snarl. "You think you've won? I'll bury you." He pointed at her, his hand trembling, but the threat was hollow, drowned by the chaos he'd sown. Maya didn't respond. She stood there, her torn blazer a badge of survival, her phone buzzing with Marcus's update: stock sold. Contract pulled, legal moving. The terminal was a graveyard of Sky Globe's arrogance, and she was the reckoning. Ed's empire was crumbling, and the world was watching. 7 minutes in, 3 to go, and the chain reaction she triggered was just hitting its stride. Gate 37B was a battlefield, its wreckage strewn across the terminal floor, toppled chairs, shattered glass, abandoned luggage, and Maya Jackson's trampled keynote papers, now smeared with footprints and coffee stains. The air thrummed with the raw, unfiltered panic of a crowd betrayed, their shouts, "Refund! Fix it!" ricocheting off the walls like gunfire. The departure screens flickered with CNN's breaking news. Sky Globe Airlines grounded, shares crashed 30% amid shareholder revolt. The teenage boy's live stream, looping Ed Carver's Know Your Place rant, had hit 2 million views, #Sky Globe fail, and Maya Jackson exploding across X. Edward Carver stood amid the chaos, his silver hair disheveled, his bespoke suit rumpled. His phone a graveyard of unanswered calls from board members and investors. His aide clutched a tablet glowing with red alerts, whispering, "They're locking you out, sir," while the tall guard hovered, uncertain, his buzzcut frame a shadow of fading authority. Meredith had vanished, the counter deserted, a water bottle dripping onto the floor where she'd fled. Maya Jackson stood bruised but unbroken, her torn blazer a testament to the guard's assault, her ribs aching, her carry-on still toppled 10 feet away. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Marcus Chun, her chief strategy officer, executing Plan Delta with ruthless precision. 28% of Sky Globe's stock sold, a $3.7 billion contract yanked, legal and PR teams unleashed. The clock hit 10:57 a.m. 3 minutes since her 10 minutes warning to Ed. 7 since the system crashed, grounding every Sky Globe flight. The crowd's fury had turned inward, passengers tearing at the wreckage, their phones filming the airline's collapse. The golf bag man pounded the counter, roaring, I want my money. His wife sobbed, her diamonds dull in the chaos. The polo shirt man slumped in a chair, muttering, I'm done. His bravado gone. The toddler wailed, his mother rocking him, tears streaking her face. Ed's face was a mask of rage and ruin, his pale blue eyes locked on Maya. You, he snarled, his voice trembling, his finger jabbing the air. You think you've won? I'll bury you, your company, your name, everything. He lunged forward, his hand raised as if to strike, but the tall guard grabbed his arm, growling, Sir, stop. Ed shoved him off, his breath ragged, his empire crumbling in real time. The aide stammered, the board's on video call now. They're voting you out. Maya didn't flinch. At 41, she'd built Nexus Technologies from a scavenged laptop and a dream, turned it into a $1.2 billion juggernaut, and wielded power most men like Ed could only inherit. She stepped forward, her loafers crunching glass, her voice steady, cutting through the din, You're out of time, Carver. Look around. This is what happens when you bet against me. The crowd paused, heads turning, a hush rippling through the chaos. Ed's sneer faltered, his hand dropping, his eyes darting to the screen, stock down 35%. Analysts screaming, discrimination scandal sinks Sky Globe. The teenage boy pivoted, filming Maya now, his friend whispering, She's the one? The golf bag couple froze, their anger shifting to confusion. The polo shirt man looked up, his phone slipping from his hand. Maya moved with purpose, stepping onto the crowd, stilled, phones pivoting. A sea of lenses capturing her every word. The teenage boy's stream spiked 3 million viewers now, comments flooding. I'm not just a passenger, Maya continued, her gaze sweeping the terminal, then locking on Ed. I own 28% of Sky Globe Airlines until 10 minutes ago, when I sold it all. I was here to evaluate your airline for a $3.7 billion corporate contract, one you just lost. And I was considering an acquisition to save your sinking ship. Not anymore. Gasps erupted, the crowd reeling, their hostility fracturing. The golf bag man stammered, What? His wife clutched his arm, whispering, She owns it. Ed lunged toward the counter, his voice a roar. Lies. She's bluffing. But the screens betrayed him, stock down 40%. CNN's ticker screaming, Largest shareholder dumps stake amid racism allegations. The tall guard stepped back, his hands dropping, his authority evaporating. The wiry guard's radio crackled, a voice barking, Stand down, legals incoming. Maya didn't waver. This isn't about me, she said, her voice rising, resonant. It's about every one of you who's been judged, dismissed, or denied because of how you look, where you're from, who you are. Sky Globe built its empire on that prejudice, and today, it falls because of it. She pointed at Ed, her bruised arm steady. You told me to know my place. My place is right here, tearing down everything you stand for. The crowd shifted, murmurs spreading, shock. Awe dawned. Ed's knees buckled, his hands gripping the counter's edge, his voice a rasp. You can't do this, I am the CEO. But the aide cut in, his tablet thrust forward. Not anymore, sir. The board just voted unanimous. You're out. Ed's head snapped up, his eyes wild, but before he could retort, the terminal doors burst open. Samantha Rivera, Maya's executive assistant, marched in, a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s, her suit immaculate, her stride a blade cutting through the chaos. Behind her came 4 Nexus legal team members, leather portfolios in hand, their faces stone cold. Samantha spotted Maya, nodded, and handed her a slim folder. The documents you requested, she said, her voice crisp. Boards assembled via video. Your shares triggered the vote. Maya took it, flipping it open. Sky Globe's own anti-discrimination policies, now a noose around Ed's neck. She turned to the crowd, her voice booming. This man fostered a culture of exclusion. I've got 6 months of evidence, mystery shoppers, emails, testimony proving Sky Globe discriminates every day. It ends now. The screens shifted, CNN airing grainy footage from the live stream, Ed's rant, Meredith's smirk, the guard's shove. The crowd gasped, some turning on Ed, their anger redirected. You did this, shouted the golf bag man, his fists clenched. Liar, yelled the floral dress woman, her phone dropping. The polo shirt man stood, pointing. You screwed us all. Ed staggered back, his face ashen, his breath shallow. No, this is a setup, he croaked, but his aide abandoned him, retreating into the mob. The tall guard muttered, I didn't sign up for this, and walked away, the wiry one following, their radio silent. Samantha signaled, and the legal team fanned out, handing copies of the evidence to passengers filming fuel for the fire. Maya stepped down, her loafers hitting the floor with a quiet thud, her gaze fixed on Ed. You're done, she said, her voice low, final. Sky Globe's grounded, your stock's trash, and your board's mine. Enjoy the walk out. She echoed his words back, a dagger twisted deep. Ed's legs gave out, his body slumping against the counter, his hands clawing at the edge. I'll sue, he gasped, but the PA cut him off. Attention! Sky Globe Airlines has ceased operations effective immediately. All staff report to management. The crowd erupted, screams, sobs, a wave of despair and rage. Passengers stormed the desk, tearing at anything left, their phones filming the end. The teenage boy approached Maya, his phone still rolling, his voice awed. You're her, right? The one who took them down. Maya nodded, her expression calm but fierce. Spread it, she said. Let them know what happens when you fight back. He grinned, posting the stream hitting 5 million views. Maya Jackson now global. Ed crumpled fully, his silver hair plastered with sweat, his empire ash. Samantha leaned in, whispering, Singapore still on, private jets ready. Maya nodded, picking up her toppled carry-on, her papers lost but her victory sealed. She walked past Ed, the crowd parting, some cheering now, thank you. You're a legend. Their phones flashing respect, not scorn. The terminal was a ruin, Sky Globe a corpse, and Maya Jackson its executioner. She'd come for a flight and left with a revolution. As she exited Gate 37B, the screens blared CNN's final blow. Sky Globe collapses, industry reels from discrimination fallout. Ed stared after her, broken, the world watching his fall and hers rise. And there you have it, folks. Maya Jackson, the tech titan who turned a torn boarding pass into a corporate smackdown that'll echo through history books, or at least X threads for the next decade. Gate 37B wasn't just a battleground, it was a mirror held up to 2025, reflecting every time someone's been told to know their place, and decided, nah, I'd rather burn the place down and rebuild it my way. Sound familiar? Maybe it's that coworker who stole your idea and got the promotion, or that time you were randomly searched at security while the guy in the $3,000 suit breezed through. Maya didn't just win a seat, she won a war we've all fought in some tiny soul-crushing way. Here's the kicker, she didn't need a cape or a superpower, just a phone, a plan, and the kind of backbone that says, you mess with the wrong one today. It's 2025, people airlines still crash, stocks still tank, and petty tyrants like Ed Carver still think they can bully their way to the top. Spoiler alert, they can't, not when the Mayas of the world are out there, quietly plotting their revenge with a Wi-Fi signal and a lawyer on speed dial. Lesson learned? Don't underestimate the quiet ones, the ones who'll have you trending for all the wrong reasons faster than you can say, but I'm the CEO. Let's get real for a second. Imagine you're Maya, stuck at that gate, facing a sneering Ed and a mob of phone-wielding haters. What's your plan, Delta? Would you call in the cavalry, or just yeet their whole system into the void like she did? Maybe you've got a story, drop it in the comments, because I'm dying to know, when's the last time you turned a no into a watch me? Did you shut down an airline, or just your nosy neighbor's barbecue? Either way, spill the story here for it. Oh, and here's a pro tip wrapped in a chuckle. Next time life hands you a Meredith or an Ed, channel your inner Margaret, strategize, and laugh all the way to the bank. Because if 2025's taught us anything, it's that the real power isn't in the loudest yell, it's in the quietest comeback. So what's your move when the world tries to gatekeep you? Hit us up below, let's keep this reckoning rolling. And hey, if you loved watching Sky Globe crash and burn harder than a budget airline's Wi-Fi, don't sleep on this, smash that subscribe button right now. We've got more stories of justice, chaos, and epic clapbacks coming your way. Type my rules in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from, and stick around because the next gate's about to get wild.